We're 2 episodes in this week and hopefully you are utterly brimming with insight. Lovely. Today, we're going to do something with it because, of course, a head full of good ideas and a calendar that hasn't changed is just a very articulate form of stuck. Welcome back to Unshakable Her, helping ambitious women who are constantly second-guessing themselves to build the daily habits that compound into unshakable confidence. I'm Caroline Esterson and I'm in your corner. Today, it's Friday. We've heard the story in Monday's episode and we've understood the science of what's holding us back from Wednesday. Now we're closing the week with a song that holds everything we've covered. So you can carry the week's confidence tips with you when the podcast ends. Plus, 3 quick-fire career moves, small enough to use before Monday morning and sharp enough to make a 2mm difference to edge you towards that promotion. Because Unshakable isn't built in a moment, it's built in the moves you make between Mondays. Let's go. So here's what you're leaving with today. 1, you are going to have your song moment. It wouldn't be Friday without a song, would it? 2, you're going to get 3 moves you can actually do this week. 3 specific intentional shifts that will start showing up in your visibility, your influence, and your sense of your own capability. And 3, you're going to finish this trilogy feeling like someone who is building something, not someone who is just scrambling through the week. So Friday, we made it. And can I just say, if you've been with me since Monday, I'm so proud of you and really grateful because you've chosen to spend part of your week thinking about your career rather than just surviving it. And that distinction, you know what? Choosing to think rather than surviving, it's literally what this whole trilogy has been about. Monday, we met Sarah. We watched 11 talented people sitting in a meeting that nobody loved, nobody questioned, and that was quietly consuming 11 hours of collective brilliance every single week. And we watched what happened when one person decided to notice that something was off and actually do something about it. Then Wednesday, we went inside your brain. We talked about why the reactive default is not a character flaw. It's just biology. System 1 thinking is doing its ancient, well-meaning, but completely unhelpful job. And we talked about what happens in rooms full of clever people when nobody ever helps them switch from receiving to thinking. All those unspoken ideas and invisible value just sitting there. And today, we've got your song reveal. And if you've been collecting the clues, I think you might already be there. We've also got what would Caro do with the dilemma that I know a lot of you are going to recognise. And we have 3 quick-fire career moves that are specific, doable, and going to shift something. And at the very end, I've got a little tease for you of where we're going next week. Because if this trilogy got you thinking, next week is going to blow your mind. Right, let's go. So the clues, the little trail that I've left you, let's revisit them because I want you to feel the full satisfaction of getting this. Monday, I told you about Sarah, about the moment she stopped going through the motions and decided to rise, to question, to lead differently. It was all about someone choosing to step up when staying stuck would have actually been so much easier. Then on Wednesday, I asked you, what do a heavyweight championship fight and your Monday morning have in common? And I meant it seriously because in both cases, the fight and the meeting, the person who wins is not always the one who works the hardest. It's the one who prepares most deliberately, who studies the patterns, who walks in with a strategy rather than just showing up and hoping for the best. And here's your third clue. This is an anthem, and it's been making people want to run up staircases since 1982. And the story behind it, the film it comes from, is about a man who was completely overlooked, written off, told he didn't belong in the ring, and who decided, most deliberately, one training session at a time, that he was going to prove every single one of them wrong. Do you know the film? Yeah, that film is Rocky. Of course it is. And your song this week is Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. Because this trilogy has been about exactly that. The moment you stop reacting to what's coming at you and start deciding deliberately, intentionally, and with focus, what you're going to do with what you've got. This is not about ego. This is the eye of the tiger, calm, prepared, and completely clear about what matters. And that is the energy I want you to carry into next week.
What would Caro do? Sometimes you don't need permission, you just need better advice.
Right, moving on to what would Caro do? This week's dilemma comes from a listener. Let's call her Penny. Penny writes, I'm in back-to-back meetings from 8:30 till 5 most days. By the time I get any actual work done, it's evening and I'm exhausted. I know that I'm not being strategic about what I do, and I know that I'm not visible in the right ways, but I genuinely can't see how to change it when my diary is just full. What would you do? Oh, Penny, first of all, this is one of the most common things I hear from women in middle management, and it's real, and it's exhausting, and I'm not going to tell you to just say no more because honestly, that advice makes me want to throw something. But here is what I would actually do. Start small. I pick one meeting this week, just one, and before I accepted it or turned up to it, I would ask 3 questions. Do I need to be here, or do I need the outcome? Could I get what I need another way? A 5-minute conversation, a shared document, a 2-lined email, perhaps? And if I don't need to be there, what would need to happen in this meeting for it to have been worth my time? Now, this isn't about trying to be difficult, but it is about challenging the systems that are in place. It's about thinking about how you need to be intentional. Because Penny, here's the truth, and I say it with utter warmth. A diary that is completely full is not a sign of importance. It's a sign that someone else is setting your priorities. And honestly, I just think you're too good for that. There you go. 1 meeting, 3 questions. Start there.
3 little moves to make you unshakable, small enough to start Monday, sharp enough to change everything.
Let's move on to your 3 moves for this week. Move 1, audit 1 meeting. This first move is a build from the response of Penny. This week, pick 1 recurring meeting in your diary, one that you turn up to without really thinking about it, and ask yourself honestly, is this meeting designed for people to download information, or is it designed for people to think together? Because they're not the same thing. And if it's a download, if it is 11 people going around a table sharing updates that could have been read in advance, then you've just found yourself a gift because you now have the awareness and the language and the permission to think about what it could be instead. This action shifts you from passenger to architect. And the moment you start designing things rather than just enduring them, that internal voice that says, I don't really belong here, gets a lot quieter. Because you're not waiting to be chosen anymore. You are choosing. And I promise you, it will have a remarkable impact on your influence because people notice the person who asks the question that nobody else asked. The person who reframes the meeting everyone hated into the meeting everyone leaves energized. That's no small thing. That's the kind of move that gets talked about, that gets remembered. It builds your reputation as someone who thinks differently. And boy, that reputation is currency. Remember, senior people aren't looking for the person who manages the process. They're looking for the person who questions it and improves it. They're looking for the person who makes the people around them better. 1 redesign meeting, yeah, it won't get you promoted, but the pattern of behavior that starts with 1 redesign meeting absolutely will. That's your first 2mm difference. Small moves, but enormous compound interest. Move 2, close 1 open loop. You've got something in the back of your brain right now. I know you have, a decision that you've been putting off, maybe an email that you've been half composing for 3 days or a conversation that you know you need to have, but keep finding reasons to delay. And it's sitting there taking up space, quietly, persistently consuming a slice of your cognitive bandwidth every single day. That bandwidth that could be going on strategic thinking or pattern recognition, on noticing by being fully present in the room rather than half thinking elsewhere. This week, close it, make the decision, send the email, have the conversation. Just do it. A lot of what we feel as self-doubt is actually the weight of unfinished things. As soon as you start closing the loops, when you become someone who deals with things rather than just carrying them around, your internal noise level just drops. And in that quiet, you can actually hear yourself think, which is when your confidence starts to rebuild. And just in case you didn't know, people who close loops are people others trust. You become known as someone who follows through. You don't leave things hanging. You're the person that can be relied on to finish what they started. That is influence built on character, and it lasts a lot longer than influence built on being in the right meeting. Decision-making under pressure is one of the most visible leadership qualities there is. Every time you close a loop, especially one that's been uncomfortable to close, you are demonstrating it quietly and consistently in a way that accumulates. Move 3. Block 30 minutes to look up. Not to do, not to catch up, not to finally get through your inbox. 30 minutes this week to lift your head and ask, what am I noticing here? What patterns are emerging in my team, my organisation, my industry even, that I've been too busy reacting to actually see? What is the 24-month version of what I'm working on right now? And what would I be doing differently if I was thinking that far ahead? What idea has been sitting in the back of my mind that deserves 30 minutes of actual attention? Please don't treat this as a luxury. It really isn't a nice to have when things calm down, because we both know things are never going to calm down. This is a career move, because the people who get promoted, who stop feeling like imposters, they aren't the ones who work the longest hours. They are the ones who think most clearly. And thinking clearly requires space, deliberate, protected, and boy, it's non-negotiable. Get it in your calendar right now. And this is so important because when you're permanently reactive, you lose touch with your own thinking. You know, those instincts, the perspectives that makes you, specifically you, and incredibly valuable. 30 minutes of looking up is 30 minutes of reconnecting with the person your organisation actually needs. And I know that person is formidable. Strategic thinkers are rare. And in an organisation where everyone is heads down and reactive, the person who lifts their head and says, I've been noticing something, that's magnetic. People start to lean in and listen because they're starving for someone to see the bigger picture. Remember, you can't lead from inside the hamster wheel. It just doesn't work that way. The 30 minutes you protect for looking up is the 30 minutes where your next move, your next idea gets born. And that is where careers shift. 30 minutes in the diary this week on repeat, non-negotiable. You hear that? Non-negotiable. Right, let us close the loop on this week because I promised you 3 things at the start. I promised you your song moment. Eye of the Tiger, Rocky, the overlooked underdog who stopped reacting to the punches and started preparing for them. Tell me that doesn't feel right for this week. The link to the playlist and, of course, Eye of the Tiger is in your show notes. I also promised you 3 moves you can actually do. Just to remind you, those 3 moves are audit 1 meeting, close 1 loop, and block 30 minutes to look up. You know, it's not a transformation program here. It's just 3 small intentional shifts starting on Monday. And I promised you finish this trilogy feeling like someone who is building something, not someone who's just getting through the week. So let me ask you, do you feel that? Because you should. You spent 3 episodes this week actively choosing to think about your career, choosing to understand what's happening rather than just enduring it, and choosing, even in the middle of all that noise and the busyness and the back-to-back meetings, to look up. That's not nothing. It's everything. Okay, so speaking of looking up, neat trick there. Next week, we're going somewhere really interesting because everything we talked about this week, the reactive default, the patterns you're missing, the ideas that never make it out of your head, it all comes back to one thing, noticing. Real, deliberate, career-changing noticing. And next week, we're going to explore what it actually means to be present in a way that builds your career. how the most influential people in any room are not necessarily the loudest or the most senior. They are the ones who see things that other people miss, and how you can train yourself to be one of them. Monday, we meet someone who changed everything by paying attention to one thing everyone else, including her, had completely stopped seeing. It's going to be good. Have an amazing weekend. See you Monday.
So that's it from me this week. Before you go, if something this week made you nod, laugh, or think, finally someone said it, leave a rating wherever you're listening. Just a couple of taps, that's all it takes. And it helps other women just like you who are spiraling and searching for help to find this show. I'm Caroline Esterson. You came here for career advice, but what you're really building, week by week, move by move, is someone no one can shake. See you Monday.